Good evening. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate with your 9 o'clock update on Thursday evening, August 19th, 2021. The tropics still remain active. I'm going to focus most of this update on Tropical Storm Henri because we have what could be a very impactful storm in the making. Henri currently has winds of 60 miles per hour. It's a tropical storm, but it is expected to increase in intensity, particularly during the day tomorrow. Now, let me point some things out here in this tropical satellite picture. This is the GOES satellite. The GOES satellite orbits at 22,300 miles up in a geosynchronous orbit, so it's constantly looking at the weather and the environment of the Western Hemisphere here, and it can monitor the clouds as it's doing right here. You can see down here before the sun, the terminator line goes down and the satellite picture changes to infrared because the visible satellite is no longer possible with no reflected sunlight. You can see Grace down here. This is Tropical Storm Grace that has emerged off the Yucatan Peninsula, and it is expected to strengthen back into a Category 1 hurricane before it makes landfall again on the Gulf Coast side of Mexico. So it looks like that storm will be out of the Atlantic Basin in a matter of days. Meanwhile, up to the northeast, this is the one that we're really focusing on right now. Tropical Storm Henri. Look at it just spinning there, and it has taken. This is Bermuda right here, where the tip of the cursor is. It has taken a really circuitous loop around Bermuda, and it's headed in the westerly direction right now because of high pressure that is to the north. And that high pressure is going to continue to force it to the west. It's kind of like the hurricane can't move north because it's like a brick wall, like it's hitting that brick wall. So it's going to continue to slide to the west. I'll zoom in a little bit here, and you can see it's getting closer to the Carolina coastline. However, it's not going to make it all the way to the Carolina coastline. Why? Because of a couple of reasons. There's a weakness in the high pressure. So there's a weakness right in this area here, and storms like to follow the path of least resistance. We also have a trough of low pressure that's approaching the coast. It's not really barreling its way through. It's not going to just clear everything out and push Henri well out to sea. But it is here, and that acts sort of as a conveyor belt, if you will, of air that's running up the coast. So there's really no chance that Henri could move directly west and right into the coast of Georgia or South Carolina. Chances are very, very little. I should never say there's no chance. But it looks like over the next 24 hours, Henri is going to take a turn to the north. It's going to slow down and then do a curve to the north and start moving in that direction. That's where the forecast becomes pretty tricky. I'm going to go over to GeoCollaborate here and show you what it looks like. So this is a wider picture right now, and look where Henri formed as a depression in this area right here, and then it moved to the southeast and then the south, and then it moved around that high pressure system to the west. Now the high is keeping it down there. It's moving west, 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 and now we come into the forecast, the official forecast of the National Hurricane Center. So this is where it picks up, and it looks like a cone, and then it gets pretty fat here at the end. Why does it do that? It does that because there's uncertainty in the forecast. What's really important is that you understand what the cone of uncertainty means. It means that the hurricane or tropical storm, whatever it is, can move within that cone. The center of the storm is forecast to move within this cone. So it could move along the western edge of the cone, and it could ultimately make landfall in Connecticut, or it could hug the eastern edge of the cone and remain out to sea with no problems but severe rip currents and heavy seas. We've seen that Henri continues to move to the west. Just where it makes this turn is really critical, because if it goes a little bit further to the west and then makes its turn, this whole cone could shift to the west and put more of the East Coast and the Northeast in the threat of a potential impact from this storm. So right now, Henri is a tropical storm with 60-mile-per-hour winds. It's forecast to become a hurricane Saturday morning around 2 a.m. or maybe around midnight on tomorrow night, Friday, with winds of 75 miles per hour. And then it intensifies pretty quickly because the sea surface temperatures are fairly warm in this area, abnormally warm, actually. And I could turn on, let me see if I can find it here. I may not have it in this particular instance, the sea surface temperatures. I don't, which is okay. But it looks like the storm is forecast to increase to a category 2 in this area here with 90-mile-per-hour winds. And so if it does that, it's going to expected to be to do that over a short period of time and then go back to a category 1 and ultimately down to a tropical storm somewhere off the coast or over Massachusetts and the Cape Cod area. Now, what happens when a storm moves in this direction is, first of all, it's going to kick up a lot of waves. It's going to get pretty rough on the East Coast as Henri starts to intensify. So there's probably going to be a lot of red flag warnings from lifeguards. Please pay attention to them. Please, parents, don't let your kids go out there in anything more than ankle deep water. Those waters are strong and those rip currents can drag them right out to sea. And if they don't know how to float with them and then swim parallel to the shore, it could end tragically. We don't want that to happen. But as Henri intensifies, look at this. It looks like it may take a turn to the west. And if it does that, wherever in the track, if it moves further to the west, it puts more of the coastline under a threat. And New England does not like hurricanes. Nobody likes hurricanes, but we have trees that are fully leaved. We have lots of boats out there. We have saturated soils. This is not a good time for a hurricane to come by. And so we're going to be watching it closely because if it comes close enough to the coast, likely going to be a lot of trees knocked down, branches broken, and power outages. And that requires mutual assistance if it's large enough scale for utilities to respond across the country to get through each state. They have to access waivers and declarations, which we pull into GeoCollaborate so they can access them. And then they have to set up areas where they're going to muster, where they're going to gather together so they can get their assignments on what neighborhoods to go and restore. Now, it's still early to determine whether or not New England is actually going to get hit by Henri, but the trend has been for the storm to continue on a westward trek, and then we're hoping for that turn sooner than later. Sooner the turn, the better. If it happens later, we might see this track shift to the west. There's an 11 o'clock p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center that automatically updates within GeoCollaborate. I'm getting up early tomorrow morning to support some of the Hurricane Hunter aircraft. So that's about 4 a.m. So I'm not going to do an 11 o'clock update tonight, but I might do one closer towards the 5 o'clock a.m. update. We're tracking all sorts of buoys, sail drones that are sailing through solar power. One of them may actually intersect Henri during the day tomorrow as it starts to move to the north. That'll be the first time that we actually get sail drone measurements on the sea surface inside of a tropical storm or a hurricane. So it's pretty exciting. We'll keep you posted on this. I think, from a threat perspective, let me just turn on the significant day 2 weather that's expected. And you can see thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms in Minnesota down to Iowa. That's a threat, as also is flash flooding in North Dakota, parts of northern South Dakota as well. And in the mid-Atlantic, from central and southern Maryland through southeastern Virginia and eastern North Carolina, because of thunderstorms, heavy thunderstorms that could form. Again, the soil is saturated around this area, so any thunderstorms that form could cause flash flooding. And so the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center is predicting a possibility for that. One thing I did want to show you, it's called the Quantitative Precipitation Forecast, which is how much rain do the models think is going to fall over a 7-day period. So we're talking about a week's period. Now, when you put that much precipitation over the course of a week, sometimes you get to see forecast tracks of big rainmakers. So I'm going to turn that QPF on. And when that displays, what shows up here is a track for Tropical Storm and Hurricane Henri. And you can see how it's expected to move in this direction. And look where the precipitation currently is expected to fall very heavily. So in eastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Providence, Connecticut, Hartford had flash flood warnings today. Had a lot of cars that were swept into riverbeds, and so this is kind of an initial indication we get of the official forecast from the Hurricane Center, or from the Weather Prediction Center, excuse me, on how much rain is going to fall and how much accumulated rain. Look at this out here in the ocean. We're talking about 7 inches or more of rain. Once we get up here into eastern Massachusetts, we're talking about 3 inches of rain over this 7-day period. Now, if it's over a 7-day period, that doesn't mean a whole lot. If it's within a 6-hour period, it could mean a lot of flooding. So we're going to pay attention to this very closely. Whenever a hurricane impacts or threatens to impact the eastern seaboard, it's serious like anywhere. But the folks in New England just don't have a whole lot of experience with these storms, and we want to make sure that they stay ready and prepared. And so we're going to be watching this very closely through the weekend. I'll be doing updates through the weekend as well. So that's it for me. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and the All Hazards Consortium. This has been a sensitive information sharing environment, SICE update, and we post that on the GeoCollaborate dashboard, so utilities can access it and see this update as well. So thank you for watching. The next official update from the Hurricane Center is at 11 p.m. tonight, Eastern Time. The next update is at 5 a.m. Eastern Time, and I'll probably have a video update somewhere around that time, maybe 6 or possibly even 7 o'clock. Until then, stay safe and be well. Thanks for watching.